you guys have been plant-based for quite a while, and because we have the two of you, maybe we could hear each one of your stories. So who wants to go first?
Well, I'm the oldest. So I have the unique privilege of being born to parents who were way ahead of their time, and believe it or not, they raised me as a whole plant food guy from day one. I'll be 70 years old June 26th during the middle of the NHA conference this year, but I have been whole plant food my whole life, not just plant-based, whole plant food. I've never had a piece of meat, piece of cheese, pizza, any of those sort of things. My parents, again, were just way ahead of their time. So I've enjoyed, I think, really good health, and I consider myself really blessed.
Wow, that's great. That's some. I wonder if there was like a Guinness Book of World Records for the longest plant-based person.
You know, Chef said that she hadn't met anybody like me, and I don't think I've met anybody like me either, to tell you the truth. But it's again, it's just the world was really different in 1951, and during the 50s and the 60s and all that. We've come a long way, and so it's just really rewarding and exciting for me, and I know for Wanda, to see the growth and interest, podcasts like yours and you know, video casts and all that, and Facebook Lives that people like you and Chef AJ and so many others are doing. This just was just something that didn't exist in the first 3 or 4 or 5 decades of my life. So it's really exciting times.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a different time when there weren't very many options for people to. Now they can go in grocery store and find all kinds of things that say plant-based.
I often say that, you know, when you went into a grocery store when I was growing up, they had a little produce cooler, and it was usually in the back of the store, not in the front of the store where you know the first thing you hit is all the beautiful fruits and vegetables that you have. And there certainly were no such thing as salad bars, even though COVID kind of suspended them for a little while. You know, they're back, and but it was just a whole different world when I was growing up. But all for the better, gotten way better.
Really, I mean, we can only appreciate what is available now if we could only know that back then. I mean, I remember listening to chefs. They weren't necessarily plant-based, but chefs that, especially for the United States, they would comment if they came from other countries. And that, you know, our idea in the U.S. for lettuce was like iceberg lettuce, you know, and that was it. So they really weren't, you know, we can go into the stores now and find all kinds of wonderful, you know, vegetables and fruits that weren't even available back then.
Now, what were collard greens and kale and Swiss chard and spinach? Maybe down south where Wanda came from, you know, they had collard greens and things like that, but certainly wasn't we Yankees up north. Wasn't anything like that.
Right. So your diet was probably more simple than people have today, right?
You know, more remarkably for me, it's kind of a unique phenomenon, is that my parents not only raised me 100% whole plant food, but they raised me on raw fruits and vegetables. I was raised on what they call the Sheltonian diet, patterned after Dr. Herbert Shelton, the guy that inspired Joel Fuhrman and Alan Goldhammer and all that. And the pristine diet was truly whole foods, whole raw fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds and things like that. So I didn't even have baked potatoes and corn on the cob for the first 3 decades of my life. So that's I truly, if there was a word for living on a whole plant food diet, that was Mark Huberman. And still is largely, but for 3 decades, it was raw whole foods.
That's remarkable. And today, people who are discovering this lifestyle, they're so concerned. Oh, I need to make sure I get turmeric. And what is this superfood that I'm missing? And do I need some powder? And you grew up and survived, and you're healthy, right? And you didn't have all these crazy superfoods and worrying about combining things and measuring things. And
I had a giant salad, and my salad was the rainbow before people started talking about having the rainbow. It was cucumbers and peppers and different colored peppers and tomatoes and celery and all kinds. Like you said, it wasn't iceberg lettuce. It was leaf lettuce and romaine lettuce and Bibb lettuce and Boston lettuce. And so You're right. I didn't grow up with superfoods, and I still, Wanda will tell you, I still sort of take it with the grain. You know, I hedge my bets, and I'll add some chia seeds and flax seeds and hemp seeds, and once in a while a little, you know, a whole protein powder. But even that I look at with a little skepticism. Do I really need this?
Right, because you went all that time without it,
Right.
and you certainly
I'm still
were
here.
very healthy, and you still right. So I think that's pretty should be comforting for people that are listening, because sometimes you can really overthink this lifestyle, and you don't. We were not meant to have all these imported things. We were meant to have things that we just could grow where we were living. So we shouldn't worry too much about all that, and things probably will work themselves out.
How
So
did
that, yeah.
how did civilization survive without even B12? I take it. I don't want to get in trouble anywhere. I hedge my bets because you know, those are two factors that they say we should pay attention to. But I do think about this not just nutritionally, but I think about it philosophically. And there is a philosophic side to this, that, you know, God, as someone, late Robert Mendelsohn once said, God didn't make too many mistakes when he made us. We were made to be well and to stay healthy. And I think the natural hygienists that our health movement is based on, those guys understood that there was a living in harmony with nature made sense, and it happens to have been confirmed by science. But there's a philosophic side to it, and simplicity and whole foods and less processed foods. The closer you are to nature that way, that's it. Fortunately, it makes sense. And fortunately, at least if my life is any kind of example, it works pretty well.
Right. So that kind of brings us to you, Wanda. Obviously, since Mark was Lifetime and you're not Lifetime, but you have been for a while, it must have been because of his influence. So maybe, but I mean, we all like a little romance. So maybe we could talk about how you guys met before you talk about your lifestyle.
Okay. So we met in the legal community. We worked as adversaries, actually. Mark had a private law practice, and I did litigation and claims and litigation. And I also did a second job doing some probate work on the side, and Mark had a probate practice. So we first met at a probate seminar, and I kind of noticed how he was eating, but didn't pay much attention. And then later he had a client that had a claim with my office, and we met that way. And at that point he asked me out, and he's pretty well known in the community. He's civic oriented. We live in a small town. We had a lot of mutual friends in the legal field, and they said, yeah, he's a nice guy. We were both single parents, and they said he's vegetarian, and I didn't know anything. I grew up in the South on a tobacco farm and moved to Ohio when I was a child, and grew up on a very standard American diet. So when he came to my house to pick me up for a show we were going to, I thought, oh, he's vegetarian. I'll have wine and a cheese platter for him. And I did, and he's a great conversationalist, and I hardly noticed that he didn't touch any of it. And we talked, and we went on our date, and that was that. And he never said a word. And it ended up that his parents owned a health food store in town. And I stopped at the health food store shortly after that to get something he had mentioned. And his father was not nearly as subtle or quiet, gave me books and told me about it. And I had a 5-year-old that was scheduled to have her tonsils.
He gave you a big hug too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So at that time, my 5-year-old daughter was scheduled to have her tonsils out, and his father gave me the book Sugar Blues. And I didn't dramatically change our lifestyle after 2 or 3 dates. I just reduced sugar and added a few more fruits and vegetables, and took her for her pre-op. And the doctor said, I can't explain this. She doesn't need the surgery. And so then I was motivated to make more changes. And I did. And that 5-year-old is now 38. And the whole time she was growing up, she never needed the surgery. She went off to college. She made her own choices, as our adult children do. And she went to a more traditional diet, and she subsequently had the surgery. When she added
Oh,
the foods back in, she needed it, and she chose to have the surgery. And you love your children unconditionally, and supported her, and that was fine. And the same thing for Mark. It's really easy. He wasn't. Today you're learning to eat this way, and we have coaches and YouTube videos. We've been married. It'll be 30 years next week, and so we started dating about 33 years ago. There was nowhere for me to get information. His mother taught me how to make vegetable soup. But Mark grew up on cooked foods or on raw foods, so he didn't know how to cook. He made a great salad and great fruit baskets. And so as I was learning, it was also very simple and pretty challenging in the winter because in Northeast Ohio, you're not growing anything. So my journey was more, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. And I did okay raising our children, but then traveling a lot for work, I would make compromises. And I actually gained 50 pounds when I went on a vegan diet or vegetarian diet because I got into that pleasure trap of eating too many processed foods. And Mark never judged or told me what to have or what not to have. If I wanted wine or coffee, he would just say, "Can I buy it organically for you?" And he did. And it wasn't until 2011, when I was by that time in my 50s and overweight and tired, that I just said, I know there's a better way. I had been going to National Health Association conferences every year with him. And I went out to True North and I did a fast, and I really focused on, if I'm not going to take care of myself, I won't be there to help my children and grandchildren. It finally had my light bulb moment, and I love it. I haven't looked back. And it's great to do it as a couple, eating this way.
that's a really wonderful
Amen
story.
to that. I'll say
Amen.
amen to that because, I know I've grown up in this health movement, and I know for so many people that do this solo, even when they're married or when they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever they have, if you're doing it yourself, it just can be challenging, certainly lonely, hard. And even for me, who, again, to me, it's never been willpower. I just kind of enjoy what I do. But what a joy it is to share, when Wanda and I travel a lot, and to be able for her to find the same comfort as me as taking a pita pocket in the car or stopping at a Whole Foods salad bar instead of going to a restaurant was just a dream come true. But I think it's a larger thing than that. I mean, I think with any couple to be able to share religion, politics, philosophy, but diet is such an overriding thing in our society. To share that for me was like dying and going to heaven. And it still is, because it's just such a great thing to be able to share, and to share not only the kind of the confidence that you control your own health destiny, but just the joy of it all, that this is just fun. This is really good tasting stuff. And so it just kind of adds, I wouldn't say spice to maybe spice is the right word. It adds spice to your relationship, because it's just a great thing to share. And I think couples that find that, like you and your husband, again, you find that you can't buy that. That's just incredible to be able to share that. So we've had that joy in particular since 2011, when Wanda just said, when she left True North, she called me before she came home and said, "Clean out the pantry. I don't want to see the whole food junk food. I don't want to see the Amy's pot pies and the organic silk creamer and all that stuff. Just get it out of there. I don't want to see it. Get the Keurig down in the basement and the whole coffee cup drawer in the basement." This was heavenly, because as maybe Wanda said, I have a philosophy about not judging. I don't think I have the right to tell Wanda how she should live or what kind of religion she should follow. So she, but coming to it on her own. But when she does, again, that's just great. Lucky for me, lucky for her, lucky for us.
That's just so inspiring. And I know that there are people out there that are watching or listening that probably have a spouse or significant other that may or may not be on board with them. And you're right. I mean, it can be frustrating for people, not only because they want to share this lifestyle with the person and be able to eat the same, be on the same page and so forth. But also the one that has adopted the lifestyle knows about the great health results and how good it makes them feel. And if they want their loved one to benefit from that as well. And it can, sometimes people may not have the patience to wait, and it can take a while, but you just waited and you knew that eventually, it would probably come to Wanda when it was time for her to do it.
I
And
have,
I just commend you.
I have a philosophy in life that you don't proselytize. I don't proselytize about health. I think you do it by example. And I think that's what I did for, the 24 or so years of our marriage when Wanda wasn't as close to my lifestyle as it was, because that's just the way you do. I don't think you proselytize about religion. I don't think you proselytize about health. If somebody asks me what I think about health, I'll talk to them all day long. If they don't, I'd rather talk about sports or theater. The only other thing I wanted to add is that about relationships, and for one party in a relationship that believes in this lifestyle and that has confidence and faith in this lifestyle, and the other that doesn't, where it really gets hard is when we follow this lifestyle, we know that heart disease, diabetes, all these conditions that people suffer need not be. We know it. We believe it. We trust the science. We trust the philosophy of all this, that we'll be fine. And to watch loved ones suffer, or if they get diagnosed with breast cancer and they're going to have a mastectomy, or they're going to go on diabetes or heart medication for the rest of their lives, it's hard to have that. And if it's in your family, or if it's your relationship, your spouse, your significant other, that's hard. That's the flip side of it. That's the hard side of it. My mother used to say, sometimes the toughest people to convince are those closest to you. And that's heartbreaking when you see them suffer and you don't think that it's necessary or could be avoided.
Well, I'm glad you said how long it was, because that is really going to be helpful to some people who are maybe have been doing this for 6 months and still can't get their significant other on board.
Well,
And just be patient, right?
I'll add, I would say when we were raising our children, our philosophy was we always had a big salad on the table, and you ate your salad first. And that was pretty much a non-negotiable. And so I did the same. And then there were options for cooked food. Mark might just want a baked potato. Maybe the kids and I did more pasta. And so raising the kids was pretty good. And then as they got older and would bring their own food in the house, and I lost control, and I ended up raising a niece, and his mother moved in with us, and I changed jobs. Life just happens. And so that's what I mean. It wasn't just a straight line up. I think like so many of us, I made choices that I wouldn't make today, but at the time they seemed like the best I could do. And you just keep moving forward.
Well, it's good to hear all these things, because some people say, oh, well, they're different. I couldn't be that way. And we're just all human. And maybe it seems like we're perfect at this lifestyle and it just comes so easily and so forth. But we're still human, and we still have our times of stress and things happening and so forth. And balancing with the children, that's another thing that, and especially for you didn't really have the way that people, Brenda Davis just came out with a book with Dr. Regimen Shaw about nourish and raising a family this way. But otherwise, people before that didn't really have any resources, and you certainly didn't have resources. So you made that work too, because you don't want that rebellion, especially when they become teenagers, because the more you say no, the more the pendulum for them wants to go the other way.
I will say one of the resources I was lucky enough to have is we went to the conferences every year, and my children are just a little bit older than Joel Furman's children and Ron Cridlin's son and several of the board members. So my children did get to hang out with other children that were being raised this way at the conferences. And so they knew they weren't alone, but when we came back to Northeast Ohio, that's the way it was. And I had the great privilege for a while of not working outside the home. So I was able to be the room mom, and my kids could come home for lunch, or I could take food to the lunchroom when they were in elementary school and supervise. So I think I did have some privileges that not everybody gets, and it helped. And Mark's mom, who raised him that way, was very supportive.
Well, I'm glad that you talked about the conferences, because that's another one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on today, because I mean, you do have a wonderful story about being plant-based, and I love the romance story. That's cool too, and you gave some really great tips. But now, for people, I didn't even know, and I had been doing this since 2012. I had made a meetup group, which they also it's a Plant Pure Pod locally, because I wanted to have people of like-minded that I could maybe learn from, and we could learn from each other. So one of the people that showed up was somebody that's on your board, and that was Roz Reynolds.
Yes.
And she was the one that told me about, I didn't know that the NHA was in existence. And one of the things I like to do during our meetings was either have another member either come up and do a recipe demo or talk about something that we could all use. And she offered to introduce us to the NHA. And I was like, where has this jewel been? I didn't even know it existed. So I became a member right away, and I just love the benefits of it. So I want to share that information, and you guys would be the best people to do that. If you could talk about the NHA and why it's so wonderful to have.
Yeah, I'd love to. Whoops. Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
So one of the reasons I became the executive director, I took an early retirement right before COVID from my job to become an executive director and help grow the National Health Association. Because like you said, I must hear once a week, how could I not have known? And the National Health Association was founded in 1948, and it's a nonprofit 501c3 with the purpose of education. We don't sell anything other than for $35 a year, you're a member. And with that membership, you get quarterly magazines mailed to your house. And I don't know if you can see them back there, but I have a couple on my bookshelf. And then we've archived 42 years worth of magazines. Thank you, Amy. So you can, with your membership, if you have time, we have a whole library of information. We have ebooks that go back to the Herbert Shelton days that I'm not even sure you can purchase them even through Amazon. We might be the only place you can get them. And for just $35 a year, you have access to all of that. There's no additional charge. I have a really robust recipe page. When you click on to our website, you can, under health science, there's recipes, and you can see all the recipes we've served at our conference, or a lot of the favorites that we've featured in our magazine from the people we all know, like Chef AJ and Chef Bravo and Kathy Fisher and Katie May, and just about everybody out there has been featured in our magazine. The magazine, Mark will interview a leading doctor for everyone. So you're getting current evidence-based information about living this lifestyle and why you want to be able to do it. You're getting testimonials about people like you and I that are succeeding in it. And I'm passionate that I want to grow the organization and have the next generation continuing on with this organization.
That you'll find,
Yes,
one of the things that I'm sure you can attest, Amy, is that a unique thing about Health Science Magazine is that it's 40 pages long. It's as high quality as any magazine you'll pick up anywhere, but it has no advertising in it. If you go into a health food store and you pick up Better Nutrition or any of those magazines, it's mostly advertising. I mean, there'll be a few articles, but even the articles are the benefits of, say, taking some kind of the latest miracle food or miracle potion or miracle pill or miracle liquid. Health science isn't about that. It is just health information. And again, we have recipes in each issue that are all SOS free, from the SOS free best chefs in the country like Chef AJ and Kathy Fisher and Katie May and those folks. But it's not a recipe magazine. I mean, there's 5 or 6 great recipes seasonally, but it's a lot more than that. So I think it's people tell us more often than anything else is that Health Science Magazine is the one magazine that they read cover to cover. They look forward to it. It's interesting. It makes it a tough act to follow every time we come out with an issue, saying, oh my God, how do we make the next one really good? But they're really good. And when Wanda said we have interviews with, you know, the leading spokespeople of the whole plant food movement, we do. But those interviews are not just about what they think about, you know, nuts and seeds and proteins and good fats and bad fats, but who they are, what their story is and their background. And I think that's kind of what I do, what people tell me I do pretty well in those interviews. But it's a good magazine, and for $35 a year, that price hasn't changed in a long time. And I think I proudly say I think it's one of the best magazines, one of the best health magazines on the planet, and we plan on keeping it that way. It comes out quarterly, and for those people that want to get it electronically and be green, we can provide it to them that way too. But we ship it all over the world. And when you said, you know, we're kind of like one of the best kept secrets in the health movement, that's sort of true, but that's changing dramatically. We're gaining almost 100 members a month now. Our conferences have been sold out the last 3 years that we've had them. And so the word is going forth. The other thing that I guess I would just add is that what I'm proudest of is that our heritage is pretty remarkable. The National Health Association is the organization where Joel Fuhrman and Alan Goldhammer and Frank Sabatino and Stefan Esser and Nathan Gershville now, that's where they grew up. They grew up in the organization just like I did. And if you ask them what they are, they're natural hygienists like I am. And they've grown up in our movement. And when they come to our conferences, it's like they're coming home. And that's something that I find really rewarding to be able to share that with people.
Mark, you're using the word natural hygienist. You want to explain that? Not everybody knows.
So everybody thinks that the whole food plant-based health movement began when Forks Over Knives came out, or maybe Diet for a New America a little bit before that. But actually, the truth of the matter is the natural hygienists, these health reformers of the 18th and 19th centuries, William Jennings, Sylvester Graham of the Graham Cracker fame, and Russell Thacker Troll and John Tilden, these guys were way ahead of their time, recognizing that health results from healthful living, and the foundations of health are found in whole plant foods and not having processed foods and white bread and white flour and meat and all those sort of things. And it's been an evolution. But Dr. Herbert Shelton put it all together in the 1930s, coined the term natural hygiene as kind of being the science of health. It kind of coalesced around that. And those principles are the same principles that are being espoused today by Caldwell Esselstyn and T. Colin Campbell and all these legendary people who also, by the way, have spoken, you know, some of their first platforms were speaking at NHA conferences. So the term natural hygiene could be synonymous with whole food plant-based, and now more accurately 100% not plant-based, but 100% whole natural foods. That's what the NHA and the natural hygiene movement has been all about. That's how I was raised. That's how Alan Goldhammer was raised. That's how Joel Fuhrman was raised, and a whole lot of other folks. So it's a great heritage and a great torch that we continue to carry in the National Health Association. So when you're a member of our organization, you're part of a really rich history that is only getting validated more and more every day.
Yeah, that's just so wonderful. And the membership, to me, if all I had received from the membership was this magazine, this subscription to this magazine, if that's all I received from my membership fee, it would be worth it just for that, you know. But the fact that a member can go on your website, they can get discounts on Vitamix and Mama Says, they can go through your archives for how many decades back for your, well, you didn't always have the health science magazine, but you had other publications even before that in black and white.
And they're on our website. So we started publishing, there was a magazine called Natural Hygiene and the Journal of Natural Hygiene in the 50s. All of those are archived too. And from time to time, as you've seen, Amy, in Health Science Magazine, we sometimes put in what they call timeless teachings of things that William Esser and Herbert Shelton and Gerald Benish and some of the founders of our association wrote 50, 60 years ago that are as timely today as they were back then. Wanda mentioned some books that we have that are available as ebooks. there's a book, Fasting Can Save Your Life. It's probably the most famous book ever written on the value of medically supervised water fasting. You can't, if you tried to find it on eBay or Amazon, you'd probably pay $50 for it if you can find it. Ours are free. If you're a member, you download it for free, whether you have a Kindle or an e-reader or a tablet, whatever you got, in all those formats, absolutely free. And there's like 14 or 15 of those kind of classic books available for free. Again, we're a unique thing. We're 501c3, like Wanda said. We've always been that way. We're not here to make money. We're here to just spread the word as much as we can. And now there are fortunately vehicles like yours and Chef AJ's and so many of these other forums that just weren't available when I was going. Wanda said, there just weren't these resources when she started into this. But now, the internet's got a lot of crazy stuff in it. But boy, there's a lot of great stuff if you want to find it. And
Right.
look, when you look at our two of our board members, Dylan Holmes of Well Your World and Brittany Giroudi, and Michael Greger, who we featured in the magazine. These people have 50,000, 100,000 followers. This was just unheard of in my day, and I'm glad they consider the NHA their friends.
And
Well,
Amy,
my friend too. Go ahead, Wanda.
and Amy, I'm really glad you mentioned Vitamix, because even our long-term members, they forget that as a member of the National Health Association, you're entitled to discounts, and those discounts change quarterly. But I have people write to me, and if you're going to buy a new Vitamix and you get our discount, you're saving over $100 perhaps, and for a $35 membership. And Mama Says, you can order stuff from Mama Says using the NHA member discount, and you get 10% off of it shipped to your house. And as I grow, I'll be looking for other discounts. Right now, those are the two we have.
We also tell people that with the NHA, when we get these opportunities to offer discounts, a lot of them, will do affiliate where we'll get a percentage of everybody that buys through us. And that's just not the way we do it. We want them to provide the discount to our members as a benefit of membership, not to benefit the NHA. It benefits the NHA only indirectly, that it benefits our members.
Yep, it's so great, and you're still evolving, and you have videos and you have articles. I mean, if you didn't have any books on the plant-based lifestyle, you could just go right on your website, and you could be there forever, just looking through all the archives and the articles. Now, Wanda, you had mentioned, and we kind of worked on the way that you met, and then you were talking about these conferences that you were going to, and that's what we were leading up to when we talked about the NHA. So now let's shift over to the conferences. So you went to conferences when you were dating and throughout your marriage, and so let's talk about your conferences.
Right. So they used to be held when we had small kids. They were held at college dormitories, and so I had to take the sheets and the blankets and the pillows and sleep on bunk beds, and boy, it was a challenge. And when you went, the food was, just large pieces of romaine lettuce and much more simply. So they've evolved over the years. And in 2017, I took on the task of being an event planner and started working with the hotels, creating the menus and working with Mark on what speakers we have. And it's just taken off. And today I had a conference call with the hotel. And I'm glad you mentioned our website. As I was talking to the chefs, I'm going to meet them in 2 weeks. I said, go to my recipe section, and we're going to make based on these recipes. This hotel has closed down their restaurant for COVID. They are opening that restaurant up now for our event, and they're not going to offer any foods that aren't NHA compliant. So any other guests staying in their hotel during our conference, the only option they're going to get are NHA compliant foods. And then with your conference membership or your conference pass, you're going to get 6 meals served to you. And the chef and I agree on all the menus and all the recipes. I told him today, don't expect that you're going to buy a dressing. Every dressing will have a separate menu, because that's just the only way to get an SOS free. So everything at our conference will be whole foods. It'll be salt, oil, and sugar-free. There will be gluten-free options. There will be cooked beans and chia seeds and flax seeds. So whether you're a nutritarian or starch solution or Chef AJ's program or anything in between, there will be plenty of options. And the hotel is excited to work with us. We've so right now, initially they started out only allowing 176 because of COVID, and then they opened it up to about 270, and now the hotel banquet room holds 500, but we're maxing it out at 292 so that there's still space as we're transitioning away from COVID restrictions. We want people to be comfortable. So I have about 40 spots left. I expect those to be gone. I know I have 10 people waiting to register with me when I hang up or when we're done with our interview. So we'll be down to 30 spots. But I did just open up the online registration page again because I was doing them all manually. So you can go to our website and you can register under that conference link. If you decide that you can't get to Cleveland and attend in person, this is the first year. We built through Hopin, we built a virtual platform. Going outside my comfort zone, but when you go onto that conference, when you look at the flyer and you page down just below the flyer is going to be a hyperlink. If you want to attend virtually, it's going to be live streamed. So you're going to start with Dr. Clapper's wife, Elise Jones, giving a great yoga lesson. Or you might be with Dr. Sabatino doing a combination Tai Chi, Qigong class, or Dr. Furman teaching an exercise.
There's the meals.
And then we'll have the lectures in the beautiful hall with all the doctors and the meals. And these doctors are so generous with their time. So if you walk into the dinner hall and that's Dr. Sabatino or Dr. Furman, any of them, they're going to have seats left at their table. They're just one person. You'll sit down and you'll have a meal with that person. It's just as much fun meeting like-minded people. So we consider it almost a family event. And it's intimate and you get to talk to people, you share food with them, you share hikes and camaraderie. And the best compliment I ever got after our last conference, somebody wrote me a letter and they said, there might have been 250 people. I felt like I spent the weekend in your living room. And so we just have the nicest people that attend our conference and the most generous speakers that give of their time. A great exhibitor booth that you'll meet Dylan Holmes and Well Your World. Vitamix is so supportive of us. The owners of Vitamix are attending our conference. The executive leadership team is attending. They're doing their own reception. They're giving away Vitamix products. We'll have a raffle. You'll get amazing products that you can put a couple bucks in the raffle jar for. So it's fun. It's intimate, invaluable knowledge. And if you can't be there in person, you can get this whole interactive experience. I'm sure we have a lot to learn, but this Hopin platform, you're going to be able to ask questions. Q&A, when we ask the doctors Q&A, I'm going to ask one person in the audience that's live what their question is. And then I'm going to have people sitting on their laptop that are monitoring the questions coming in from our virtual audience. And Matt is one of the young doctors that's monitoring that, and he'll say, oh, this question's repeated about 10 times. And we'll ask the questions from our virtual audience. You'll get to answer polls and give me surveys and feedback for what you want next year. And I'm always looking to improve and provide the experience that our membership base is.
By the way, I want to add, Wanda, that if you again can't attend the conference and have that joy and you want to live stream, you will also gain access for right now we have an early bird for NHA members and friends of $67. If you pay for the live stream, you also have the right to the replays of all of those lectures for 6 months after, so you can watch them. You don't have to sit at your computer all day long and watching, gavel to gavel on our lectures. You can do that all day long. I just wanted to say two other things about our conferences. If there are two things that, again, I think we do exceptionally well in the NHA, is our magazine and is our conferences. We talked earlier, Amy, you said we talked about how lonely it can be, if it's only one spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend living this way. How good is it to come to a conference and not even have to think about your meals? They're all there. They're all SOS free. And it's all buffet style. It's not like somebody's bringing you a plate. No, I didn't want asparagus today, but it's asparagus on the plate. Ours are buffets, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And maybe your dessert, so that everybody doesn't hog the dessert. We'll give you the little, Kathy Fisher carrot cake or something. But it's really unique. And that's what I think, again, if we enjoy a reputation, as having an all-star lineup of speakers, like it says. I mean, really, some of the most eloquent, best presenters there are. But you can't beat the meals. You can't beat the camaraderie, the sense of community that you have. And like Wanda said, even these speakers, Joel Fuhrman doesn't come in, just give a speech and then leaves. He's sitting there with you. He's having lunch with you. He's just hanging out, and then, because they're coming home. That's how almost all of them treat it. So we're pretty proud. There's about 20, 30 spots left, I think, for the conference. One of the people will go to healthscience.org and register. If not, they can register for the live stream. And again, this just opened up a week ago. We were sold out, and we had a wait list on our website, and we had about 70 people on the wait list. And then fortunately the hotel, gave us some room. So now we can register people again, and we're doing that right and left. But you won't find a better experience, I don't think.
Well, that's so exciting. And I'm just so glad that, sometimes it has to take something like what we've been experiencing to give you guys a nudge to make you move forward with the virtual event. And now we're benefiting from that. And it's wonderful because not everybody can travel, and or maybe they're not ready to travel. You're definitely going to sell out those extra tickets that you have. I know that. But to have it, I'm somebody that I just love to listen to podcasts and watch, videos and read books. I enjoy that tremendously. And your lineup, the people that you have for this year and the past years, but this year's conference, are just some people that I really truly admire. I actually got into this lifestyle by seeing Dr. Joel Fuhrman on PBS, and my husband said, you keep watching that over and over, on TV. And I didn't have anything to record it, so I would just keep going over and seeing if I could catch him again. And so he said, "Oh, just buy the package." And I said, "Well, if I do, will you join me in trying this?" And he said, "Well, I'll do it if it tastes good." So fortunately, we figured out how to make it taste good, because being a nutritarian, you're SOS free. So if somebody is plant-based and they want to go to a place where they can feel comfortable, like you said, about eating, because that's the thing about this lifestyle is, if you wanted to go out to eat or if you wanted to travel, you would have to say, oh, let me see if there's a Whole Foods, or take some food with me, and just not to have to even think about it. And I have been on some other events that were vegan, but I couldn't eat everything, right. and they weren't a buffet style. So I was very hungry, because sometimes I'd say, well, where's the starch here? I can't just sustain myself on a small little plate that doesn't have. So this way somebody can just pick what they want. And the fact that they get to taste these recipes that are on the website, so they don't even have to buy a cookbook, right. To get the recipes. They can just say, oh, I'm going to make sure I remember that recipe, so that they can look at it on the website. So that it's just so exciting. And we also, I wanted to mention, though, that we have an offer from that we're going to, at the end of the broadcast, we're going to talk to you about that. And there is a special offer for something free. And everybody likes things that are free. So just stay tuned, and we were going to give you the details for that. So, but yeah, this conference, the people that you're going to have, they just marvelous. And I follow all of them, and I really enjoy the things that they say. And I think if I was going to go to the conference, I'd probably also get the virtual conference, so that I could have it at home.
Well, so a spoiler alert, I haven't even notified the people going to the conference, but it is my intent that they will have access. That's just going to be another benefit. You sign up, you're going to get a free link. So when you're sitting in that conference, I know I've gone to professional and NHA conferences. I want to live in the experience and hear the doctors and not be worried about taking down notes. So that's the experience our conference attendees will get. They'll take home the link with them, and they'll have access to review it for 6 months as well.
And by the way, if you've been to Cleveland and you're still thinking about coming to the conference, Cleveland in the old days used to be called the Mistake on the Lake, when the river caught fire and all these crazy things. Cleveland today is a whole different city. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's the Science Center, University Circle, its museums. It's a spectacular city right now, let alone my Cleveland Indians and the Cleveland Browns and all that kind of stuff. It's a great time. It's a fun place to be. And if you got kids, and you even right next to our hotel is Top Golf. So you can even have a little excursion for Top Golf and the Cuyahoga Valley National Park system that is right near our hotel. It's just a great location to have anyway. And a free shuttle from here. Well, a shuttle for our people from the airport. It's not free to everybody else, but if you're coming to the NHA conference, they're going to make the shuttle available to you. So it's 15
Oh, wow.
15 minutes from the airport. So no fuss, no muss, and you're there.
Right. So if somebody wanted to make it into a trip where it extended before or after the conference, they would still have things to do. But I'm sure during the conference they would be so busy.
Well, what the hotel has done is they've the block room rate, you can't beat it. It's $139 a night. And that price is good for 3 days prior to my conference, 3 days after. And since we have 75% of our people are coming in early, that's why the hotel is setting up their cafe. So you can eat if you come in early. You can get a to-go package and go explore town. And Vitamix is coming in on Thursday. They're doing a taste testing and reception for people that are there early. Dr. Clapper's speaking early. So honestly, you come in Thursday, you're getting a 4-day program for the price of 3 days.
Wow, what a deal. And they're going to be kept very busy. They really won't have to say, gee, I'm bored. Let's go find something to do, right?
Right. And Friday morning, I'm taking anybody who's registered. If they tell me they want a seat on the limo bus, we found a beautiful hiking trail in the national park that's 30 minutes away. And we've got a bunch of guides. And so for people who want to be aggressive hikers, they can. Guides that want to go moderate, guides that want to go slower. You can go on a 2-hour hike and
you'll be hiking with Dr. Clapper and Elise.
Dr. Clapper's hiking.
Among others.
And then you'll come back and you'll be back at the hotel by noon. You can get some lunch and we kick off at 2:00. And so there's Elise might be doing a yoga class before we kick off. So there'll be plenty to do. Or like Mark said, you can take an Uber and go to the Botanical Gardens or go down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You might want to come in Wednesday. You might want to stay Monday. But it's a fun place.
That sounds awesome. And then, of course, if you want to just do the virtual, you can do that too. And they can sign up to get the virtual. Now, I think we put up the speakers a picture of the speakers that you're going to have. And looks like we have, you want to tell us who's in the picture there?
Amy, when you mentioned Joel Furman, I had the privilege of growing up with Joel. And I call him Joel. I mean, other people is Dr. Furman, but to see him when I saw him on public television, it was one of the proudest moments of my life. Seeing him there, realizing that a whole plant food doctor has the biggest megaphone like that was a pretty proud moment. But he's a gifted presenter. Alan Goldhammer of the True North Health Center, he's probably changed more lives than anybody I know. Alan has just become a wonderful presenter, and if ever there's a place for world-class care, it's at the True North Health Center. Alan, like Joel, has literally grown up in our organization, so we wouldn't be a conference without him, and he wouldn't not be at one of our conferences. He's a great presenter. Stefan Esser, whose grandfather, William Esser, was one of the founders of our organization. If you've never heard Stefan speak, I don't want to put down anybody on our program. He's the most gifted presenter I've ever seen. He's mesmerizing. He's just really, you can't take your eyes off of him when he speaks. Let's just put it that way. He tunes into you. He has a gift of presenting that's really something to see, let alone his information and his pedigree and his knowledge and his own heritage is phenomenal. Michael Clapper is legendary in our movement. Michael and Elise they personify everything that's best about humanity and that the humane side of this lifestyle and the world and the planet and all that. Frank Sabatino is another one who's grown up in our organization, not as well known as some of the others. But when you see Frank, he's also just a gifted presenter, leaves people just dazzled. Nathan Gershfeld is a protege of Alan Goldhammer, who runs his own fasting retreat center in Yorba Linda, California. Nathan's an up and coming, he's going to be the future of this movement, as some of these other guys are aging out. He's one of those future. Jen Hauk is a protege or partner now with Doug Lyle. They do a lot of stuff together, and Jen is just going to be is just really another gifted presenter. Again, part of the future of this movement. And speaking of the future of the movement, Dylan Holmes and Brittany Giroudi are as inspiring of people to make this lifestyle fun and creative and SOS free and guilt free and all that. They're dynamic presenters. Their YouTube channels are just phenomenal, and they're both board members of the NHA. So we're really proud of them that they'll be there. And of course, Elise Jones is the better half of Michael Clapper. They're just a great team. And I don't think I had the privilege, Wanda and I had the privilege of seeing her do yoga and that at an event that we had in Fort Lauderdale a few years ago. And I never saw anybody do it better than she does. She's just personifies relaxation, and there's an energy about her. She belongs with Michael, and they are. But so we've just got a great lineup of people that are, again, different, and they're all unique, but they're all inspiring. There's no dead weight in this lineup, I can tell you.
Right. I'm sure that there will be plenty of pearls of wisdom coming out. And even, Michelle Vilsack said, hiking with Dr. Clapper and lunch with Dr. Furman.
Amy, Michelle is our virtual conference coordinator, and she's done a great job. And when you click on the link to see what the virtual conference offers, you'll see she's built an amazing platform, very welcoming. You'll get lots of information, and you can reach her, Michelle, at healthscience.org, or me.
And she's a health coach in her own right.
Yeah.
Just to give a plug.
Yeah. Wow. Let's see if we have some questions from our viewers and listeners. Victoria B., what is one of your favorite memories from past conferences? Oh, that would be like your favorite child, huh?
Boy, that's tough. Go ahead, Mark.
For me, I mean, again, since I go back so far, and I came to my first conference in, I think, maybe 1963 or 1964, and Dr. Herbert Shelton was speaking, and William Esser was speaking, and Gerald Benish was speaking. Again, these are legendary people. The more you learn about them, the more you realize these are the real pioneers and the fathers of the modern day whole food plant-based movement. And to say that I've met those people, that they, and as I became an adult, we became friends and contemporaries, and they were my mentors. That's my greatest, one of the great privileges of my life, to have known those people, to have walked with them.
Mine was more comical because we went to the first conference together. We were married in June, and the conference was in June. So everybody's making an assumption Mark Huberman's wife knows how to do this. Boy, were they wrong. And so all these assumptions were made by me, and I'm sneaking coffee up into my room because there's no coffee served at the conferences. And it was a learning curve, but the doctors were generous with their time, and I learned like everybody else. It's an evolution.
Yeah, just who knew that your paths would be, that we would be talking today, and you'd be having all those memories.
Not me. I certainly never envisioned this happening.
If we could just go back a little bit, and Wanda's story, if you go back into the fall 2016 issue of Health Science, if you go into Health Science, one of the nice things about our website is that much of it is free. So a lot of all the interviews that we've done, the feature articles and testimonials are free on our website. So if you go to the fall 2016 issue of Health Science, you'll see Wanda's story there, and her journey and what she did, and it's pretty inspiring. And the only thing that I look back on is Wanda had a really good job with a really big insurance company, making really good money, and she just said right around Thanksgiving of 2011, says, I called Alan Goldhammer, I got a one-way ticket, and if I lose my job, that's just too bad, because I got to do what I got to do for me. And fortunately, they valued her in the company, so they gave her short-term leave or whatever it was, and she came back and still with the company. But it was thank God she did come back. She didn't get a one-way ticket. I was very lucky, but she came back a different woman. And the before and after picture that you'll see in that issue of just go under Health Science tab on our website, click on Health Science, click down to testimonials, and you'll just scroll down, you'll see Wanda's picture, and it's an extraordinary story. And not just Wanda's, there's a whole bunch of others that are like that, that are really inspiring stories, but that's special to me because I'm the blessed guy that gets to be her partner.
Amy, I want to add real quick. What losing the weight and gaining some energy and vitality, those are certainly great perks. But the biggest eye opener to me was the clarity of mind when I really got this lifestyle. And there was a job I had wanted in my organization that was eluding me. And I decided to interview after I had changed my lifestyle. And I was told it's the best interview they ever had. I had applied 2 times and didn't get the job. After I had done my fast and changed my eating, had a clearer thinking, I got the job and enjoyed it until the day I retired from there.
I'll tell you one other thing that, that Wanda didn't mention that was just transformative for her is that when she went to True North, she also learned that, there's more than just diet here. There is rest, there's exercise, and exercise in particular was just something Wanda did not do. And for so many people, there's not time to do it in the busy lives that we have, but she came home and found a yoga class, found a personal trainer, found a reformer class, and is an exercise fiend. And now has you would not associate physical fitness and being athletic with Wanda Huberman prior to that, but she really is a powerhouse now. And I think that is, again, just another dimension of health that just even further rounded out, her health journey and her health destiny.
Well, that's very, very, it's something that I think a lot of people need to hear, because some people may be trying to adopt this lifestyle and maybe struggling with it and maybe saying, oh, I don't know if I can do this, and it just seems that you have to, find your why and find something that really means something to you. Nobody can make you do it. You have to be the one to do it. And no matter how much, I experienced this too with loved ones, no matter how much love you have for someone, it's not going to make it happen. They just have to do it. And I think what you said, Mark, is living by example. And you were just that silent, strong example, that Wanda could just keep looking to, and you could have gone the other way and said, well, here we are married, so maybe I'll just start, changing how I'm eating, but it didn't even occur to you. So that was just wonderful.
That would not. I've always said, if with me, one of the blessed things about my life is that willpower was never my issue. I didn't have to have willpower to not take a glass of wine, or willpower to not have a piece of pizza. It just wasn't something that was on my radar and has never had an appeal to me whatsoever. I'm just lucky. I'm unique that way. That's not, most people are in the pleasure trap. Wanda was in the pleasure trap. Most people are in the pleasure trap. And it's really hard to change your taste buds and to change your mental attitude towards things. Just like what I mentioned about exercise. It is a discipline that you just have to gain, and not everybody does. They say you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. You can't necessarily maintain your fitness just on diet. You got to do a little more than that. And that's what I think. As I get older, I think we can always try to do better. I go to a personal trainer. I didn't do that for a long time, but now as I'm approaching 70 years old, I'm quite disciplined about it. If I go 3 days a week and I miss a day, I'm making it up the next day because it's important. You make conscious choices every day. I don't think that I look 70 years old. I want to stay that way. And I want to, not just how I look, but how I feel and the energy that I have, and to be able to hike and climb Angel's Landing with Wanda and go skiing and things like that. I want to be able to do that. And I think that's the blessing of this diet and lifestyle, is that we do hold the keys to it's not chance. It's not, God Almighty, I'm going to contract COVID-19 and I'm going to die from it, or I'm going to have heart disease. I don't think I'm guaranteed perfect health, but I'm making conscious decisions every day about what I put on my plate and how much sleep I get and how much rest I get and how much exercise I get, that I'm hedging my bets. And I think controlling my health destiny. And I think Wanda's doing exactly the same thing. And I think we can all do that.
Well, that definitely is inspirational. I hope that people are taking some of these things home with them, and maybe they'll even replay some bits of this, because there's a lot of inspirational talk going on, and people need to hear this. We could, and we'll just keep saying it. We'll keep living by example, and hoping that people that tune in and watch this will benefit from knowing that it is possible to do it, and the outcomes are more than you can ever dream. They really are.
Right.
Let's see if we have another question. Do you have any more questions? Okay, Carol F. What do you usually eat in a day? And have you created a quote? Because you've been quoting things. So I wonder if you've created a quote too. But what do you usually eat in a day too? They want to know.
So me, Wanda?
Let's start with Mark.
Okay. So I'm a guy, I'm a creature of habit. I've been a creature of habit for a long time. So my breakfast is usually a bowl of cantaloupe and so some navel oranges and some nuts and things like that. I find that if I don't have some nuts and seeds and that in the morning with some fruit, that I'm not satisfied. I'm hungry. So having some cashews, walnuts, hazelnuts, things like that with some fruit in the morning sustains me pretty well. I sometimes do a smoothie mid-morning because I work out and having a little extra calories. But lunch is, historically I grew up having a big salad, so I now have the next best thing. I have a pretty good pita pocket. I have a very low sodium organic grain pita pocket, and I stuff it with all kinds of vegetables and avocado and things like that. And then I make usually have around, there's something called Acine bread from Maida Manual Organics. There's a carrot raisin bread that's to die for. It's just carrot and sprouted grain raisins. So I have that, a little bit of avocado, and that sustains me. Dinner is a big salad. Joel Fuhrman says your salad should be your main course. And for me, that is my main course. And then I'll have a baked potato, some steamed vegetables, some rice, some quinoa, that kind of stuff. And that's Joel, my good friend Jeff Novick once said there's about 7 things that most people eat every day. You have a million recipes, books, and all that, but there's kind of like 7 things that people kind of vary, and that's what they have: your rice, your potatoes, your yams, things like that. So I'm a pretty simple guy, and that's kind of what I do. So that's the Mark Huberman story. Mark Huberman.
Okay,
Daily
then
Life.
let's hear the Wanda Huberman story.
It's a little bit different. So I try and follow intermittent fasting, and I typically eat between 10:30 and 6 o'clock. And so I'll do a really hearty green smoothie, and I'll put in my hemp and chia and flaxseed and a little bit of either blueberry or cherry and frozen banana. And probably it's maybe 30 to 45 ounce smoothie. And that might be all I eat for breakfast. And then about 1 o'clock, I'll have a salad. And, Mark is blessed with those genes that he could eat meat, and he could eat almond butter and nuts and seeds and avocado all day long, and his weight stays fine. If I ate the breads and the avocado, my weight would go up. So we vary that way. I'll just eat the salad, and maybe I'll put some homemade roasted red pepper hummus on it, or a tahini dressing, and I keep it really simple. Maybe I'll have some soup with mine. And then dinner is typically another salad. And my favorite is probably just some quinoa. I stay away from the rice. And if I don't have quinoa cooked, it might be a sweet potato. Mark will eat more white potatoes than I do. And steamed vegetables on the side. And I'm thrilled. And I'll give you my biggest snack. So when I want something sweet, and I'm so busy right now with the conference, I don't have time to be spending in the kitchen. So my go-to snack that is calorie dense, but it's easy, it's quick, it satisfies my sweet tooth. I mash up a really ripe banana on a plate. I put about a tablespoon of homemade nut butter, whether it's almond butter or peanut butter. We make our own nut butters. And then I will sprinkle over that a handful of Santa Barbara organic 100% cacao or cocoa chips. And I melt that. I microwave it for 25 to 30 seconds. I mix it up, and it's just like warm brownie batter. And A half a plate would be plenty. I usually eat the whole plate.
When Wanda mentioned that she's kind of an intermittent fasting person, kind of pays more attention to that. In the upcoming issue of Health Science, the summer 2021 issue, that'll be out probably the first week in July, or I'm not exactly sure when, but the feature interviews with Joel Fuhrman, who I've been interviewed in a number of years. And Wanda and I were at his retreat in early March and spent about a week there and did a fabulous interview. But one of the things we talked about, what are the keys to longevity and aging? As because he's a few years younger than me, but we're both getting up there. And he very much said he's a believer in this, in not eating after 6 o'clock at night and getting that sufficient rest. And he's a 3 meal a day guy, but it's really important to him. And he talks about it at some length of why that is. But at 6 o'clock at night, he wants to be done by 6 o'clock and allow 4 hours of his food to fully digest before he hits the hay, and then gets adequate sleep and all that. And I do find even myself that pretty busy schedule, but if I eat past like 7 o'clock at night, even if I don't go to bed till 11 or 12 o'clock at night, I don't sleep well. There is something to that. And again, he discusses it in some depth in the upcoming issue of Health Science. And if people join the NHA, over the next 30 days, they'll be on the list for that issue. And it's a great interview with Dr. Fuhrman. It's tremendous.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I love Dr. Fuhrman because he can, first of all, he evolves with his knowledge and what he shares. Yeah. And if he finds that there's science that he thinks proves something is different than what he said prior, he has no problem with saying, I used to say this, but now science has come out to prove that this is a different thing and I should say this instead. He has no problem with that. He doesn't have that ego. And he also is just great because he's always coming up with new information. So you can hear lots of his presentations, and when you go to your conference or do it virtually, you're not going to hear him say the same exact thing that you've heard him say before. He's always got something new. So I'm really excited about that. I get to be subscribed to this as a member, and I'll get to see.
If you get to visit his retreat like Wanda and I did, boy, there's no better. There's no better oasis in the desert out there than where he's. It's an extraordinary location where he is. The facility's phenomenal. He's just like a kid in a candy store with his hundreds of fruit trees all around him, his edible landscaping, the mountains that are all around him, hiking trails. The air is beautiful, and the meals that you get that his chefs. It's just, even if you don't have a health problem, you just want to go there and eat and live and be around Dr. Fuhrman and his staff. That's a great place.
Amy, can I give a quick plug? This book.
Yes.
His daughter just came out with this book, Desserts to Live For, his oldest daughter, Talia, and it's just beautiful. I made this one. It's a raw dessert. I made that for, I think, some nieces and nephews that are coming over, and it's a real winner.
I'll tell you something else, though. His daughter is the one when you asked, kind of what I eat. If there's one treat in my world that didn't exist when I was growing up, is that Talia Fuhrman came up with a recipe that for the healthiest cookies in the world, the best cookies in the world. There's an oatmeal raisin and a peanut butter chocolate chip, again, with no dairy, no salt, no oil, no sugar, like 6 ingredients. And they are the best cookies that you'll ever eat in your life. And I'm sure that's in their book, but if they're not, they email mhuberman@healthscience.org. Wanda and I will send you the recipe, but it's a staple in the house.
Oh, see that? Just because you were here, you got to hear that. That's another free, wonderful thing. We are actually going to have Talia on our show. We're going to have her on, I think, July 7th. I think she's going to do a recipe demo too. So I'm really
excited. Yeah, your readers need to tune in. She's
apples won't fall far from
a jewel.
Yeah.
Okay, now the other part of that question, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But I think that they wanted to know if either one of you had ever made a quote or a mantra or something that
Mark, we have the Huberman quote that you were raised with and that our children were raised with.
My father is one of the great humanists the world's ever put on this earth, and my late great father, and he was a fan of Horace Mann, who is the father of public education, considered the father of public education in America, and his statue is in Boston Commons for Horace Mann, and he has a quote that we Hubermans all live by, my kids live by. And the quote is, be ashamed to die until you've won some victories for humanity. And that's what motivates Wanda and I to do what we do for the NHA, and what motivates me to do a lot of things in the community, being involved in legal aid and the community playhouse and things like that. But it's kind of what we do in the NHA. We want to be ashamed to die until we've won victories for humanity. And that's why we do what we do. Spread the word. Hopefully.
Wow. Wow, that's so beautiful and so inspiring for the people that are watching and listening. And I think everybody, either by living by example with this lifestyle, or liking and sharing and commenting on broadcasts like this, that's a way of making your contribution to humanity when you know that this lifestyle is so helpful to people trying to get the word out.
Can I give you a natural hygiene quote? Because again, there's a philosophic side to what we do. We all know that in our movement, one of the great contributions that we've made is that, health is built, not bought. You need to focus on preventing, removing the causes of disease, not treating symptoms, not taking pills and potions and things like that. And medically supervised water fasting has always been, a unique aspect of the NHA history and heritage that Dr. Goldhammer and Dr. Sabatino and Dr. Furman in his early years that all are proponents of. And there's a great quote that one of the, again, leading figures in our health movement always talked about, that when you're water fasting or you're following this diet and lifestyle, what are you doing when you get sick and you're not taking medication and you're not taking drugs? You're doing nothing intelligently. And it's always been one of my favorite quotes, that you're doing nothing intelligently. That's what we do. If you get a cold, you're resting. You're being intelligent. You're just staying on melon, or you're doing something, so letting your body do what your body's constructed to do, to repair itself, rebuild itself, find conditions that are conducive to recovery. Like a dog in nature gets sick, they just curl up and they rest if they have an upset stomach. They're not eating, they're not doing those things. So, but I think that that's something that kind of is a general principle that arose out of our health movement that I've always been attracted to. When you said a quote that we like, I like doing nothing intelligently. That's what we try to do. That's our approach to that's our healthcare is self-care that we talk about so much. It's doing nothing intelligently, at least doing not the conventional things. We're doing nothing, but you're not really doing nothing. You're allowing the body to do what the body's constructed to do. You're working with the body, not against it, not trying to suppress your symptoms. So that's a quote that I can't take credit for it. Dr. Alec Burton, one of our leading figures, actually coined that. At least he was the first time I heard it, but I like it, and it's kind of makes a lot of sense to me.
I like it too. I think we have time for one more question or comment. Let's see. I don't know if did we have any more? Oh, Elizabeth M. What do you eat when you travel? You talked about traveling. That's a challenge sometimes. So.
Yeah. So we plan ahead, and a lot of times it's researching where I'm going, and I call ahead. And one of our best vacations was after a conference. They were in Orlando, Florida, and I made plans for us to stay at one of the Disney resorts, and our children were small, and I had prearranged dinners and lunches, menus, all prearranged. So we showed up at the restaurants. My kids didn't have to fuss and fight with me over what they were going to eat. I just told the chef, it's the Huberman family, and they brought out our meal just like I would make at home. We often rent like Embassy Suites or Residence Inns that have kitchens, and I stake out a Whole Foods. If I can't do that, when I was traveling for work, I would take salads, and a lot of times I'd have to be on a plane, and I would just make plans to get there before my crew. And I would go to Whole Foods, and if they're having happy hour, I'd make sure I ate a quick salad in my room and really filled myself up, so that when I went out to the business meeting where I wanted to kind of be the vanilla and fly under the radar. I don't want to be that high maintenance person when you're traveling with a group, and I'm the only one eating that way. So I'd eat in my room. I'd call ahead. Usually, I don't want to give the waiter 5 different things. I have a business card that sort of says what I do and don't eat. Sometimes I'll hand that to the waiter and say, would you give this to the chef? And whatever is in the kitchen that fits within the requirements on this card, I'd be so grateful for. And whether I love it or not, If it's got the right ingredients, I pretend to love it. I eat it. It sustains me. And that's what we do. There are times where I'm hungry when I travel and accommodations are not made, but I've also done a 21-day water fast. I can skip a meal and it's not going to kill me.
I don't like to skip meals. I want you to know it. So when we travel, I'm pretty good. I've gotten pretty good over the years of finding the right kind of containers. Wanda found a bag, a little travel bag that you can take on the plane that has nice compartments in it that's the right size. And we can put a salad in, and you can find the little mini guacamole things. So if you don't want to take a messy dressing with you or a little dressing bottle, you could use that. So it's, we've learned. I mean, there's it's hit and miss. Sometimes when you travel, you go to a restaurant, you tell the chef, I want this. They'll really get creative, and sometimes it isn't. I usually have always tried to eat before I've gone out to dinner with friends, just to be sure. But, it's easier than it. I think it's easier than it used to be. Even in airports, you can find Jamba juices these days. Joe the Juice. There are. I remember I was coming home from somewhere, and we landed in Baltimore one night, and there was this tremendous. I don't even remember the name of it, but this tremendous buffet where you could kind of make your own salad and had baked yams and things like that. So it's hit and miss, but it's okay. Planning in advance is always a big deal.
Jesse T said the business card is an excellent idea. And I think it was Dr. Goldhammer who made a comment one time when I was interviewing him, and he said people who think that they're just going to die when they're traveling from New York to LA and they don't have that little bag of peanuts, they just think they're just going to pass out and die, and you don't need it. You can just get on the plane.
Nicest thing about
COVID, okay.
Nicest thing about COVID is they stopped giving snacks on planes. People got healthier all of a sudden,
And they didn't know why, but they did. I wanted to tell everybody about the offer that you were talking about for the Be Green with Amy audience. I think we can put that up so that people can also see it. But we were talking about this wonderful health science magazine, and the spring issue just came out. And if you want to get a free PDF version of this magazine, all you have to do is email Mark, and his email address is mhuberman@healthscience.org. And I'm going to put that in the show notes so that you can find that later. Don't worry about writing it down. And you'll get a free PDF of this magazine.
And if you join after that, Amy, after you get the PDF, you look before you leap, and you like what you see, and you join the NHA while supplies last. And we've been going through a lot of them, but while supplies last, you join the NHA, I'll send you a hard copy of it.
Oh.
So you look before you leap, and if you like what you see, and if we run out of the current issue, I've got the last two issues, but you'll get a hard copy of the magazine, and you'll see for yourself the quality of it and the recipes and all that.
Yeah, recipes, articles. I mean,
they ask you ask what we eat, and when you said about stuff is free, you don't have to buy a book. So one of our favorite staples in the house is Kathy Fisher has a no tuna salad. Oh. It's just phenomenal. It's, again, 5 or 6 ingredients that with chickpeas and all that. You just go to healthscience.org, look on the recipes, Kathy Fisher, and you'll see it. You got it for nothing.
Yeah, she's just phenomenal. We just had her on the show, and she did a couple recipe demos. I agree that no tuna. Oh.
I still think her cookbook's the best cookbook there is.
It is.
It's the best. It's my favorite.
It really it's the cookbook that you buy and you don't put it on the bookshelf. You actually open it up and use it. Yeah. So yes, we have all kinds of earmarks on our cookbook from Kathy, and she was a great guest too. Wow. I just had such a nice time chatting with you guys. And I know that you're just so busy with this conference. I just can't imagine what you're going through to put it together, and virtually too. And it's so kind of you to give us your time and tell us your love story and your journey with the plant-based and all the little tips that you gave and the offers that you gave for the things for our listeners. And I really do appreciate that. Is there anything you wanted to say that we didn't talk about that you wanted to say before we leave?
Come to the conference, if at all possible, because the nicest thing about this is, again, we talked before about the loneliest side of this lifestyle. I'm sure it's true for you. If there are 1 or 2 couples that you might know that follow this lifestyle, you're lucky. When you come to our conferences, you meet people. You're in a community. and they become lifelong friends. And that's really a very special quality. So if there's one thing that I would urge you to do, it'd be the best $645 you spend to get one of those remaining seats for this year's conference, if not this year, next year. But you really become part of a great thing. And it's my late great father used to say that when you come to an NHA conference, even if you've been in this lifestyle for a long time, it recharges your battery.
Right.
It's just a great experience.
Did you want to say something, Wanda?
No, I agree with him. It was great. Our children grew up going to the conference, and they've had reunions with the other kids that they grew up going to as young adults. They've stayed in touch all these years. Lisa Furman has become my closest friend from raising our children going to the conferences. That's where you make true friends that share the same values. But you can do it virtually. I know that not everybody listening, even if they wanted to, is going to be able to or get a seat. So sign up virtually, and then there's always the year 2022. And I also am arranging travel. We were talking about traveling. Last year we did a river cruise from the port near Frankfurt and went to Amsterdam, and I worked with the chefs, and all the food on the cruise that we ate was whole food SOS free. And then we had active adventures every day. In 2022, we have 120 of us going on an Alaskan cruise. So as things open up, as members of the NHA, you'll hear about amazing travel opportunities.
You'll hear about it first. You'll hear about it first, right here.
Oh, that's great. Well, you guys are just such a charming couple and so inspirational. And thank you so much again for being here with us today. I want to let everybody know that I put everything in the show notes, so don't worry about it. We'll have all the information there about the conference, about NHA, and the free offer for the PDF and so forth. And stay tuned because we have a special announcement coming up. I did want to bring out somebody who's been in the background really helping out a lot, and that's Rebecca from TKA Solves, and she's been showing us the video. Hi, Rebecca, and bringing up the questions and comments, and that's been helpful. And I wanted to thank Jess from Jess Toss Boys. She did the countdown and she did the promo videos and so forth. But most of all, I want to thank you guys because you are here. And that means that you believe in this lifestyle, or at least are a little bit curious. And by watching this and liking and subscribing and sharing to this broadcast and those like it, and by joining the NHA, these are the things that you're going to do to help make a difference in the world. And you can help by doing all those things. If you would like to, after this announcement, please join me with Mark and Wanda. And we're going to say, be strong, be well, and be green. And you guys can type it in. And then this way, we're kind of like a community, all talking about the same thing at once and sending it out to the universe. So I wanted to ask Jess Toss Boys to tell us who's coming up next.
Just starting out with exercise? Do you have mobility restrictions? Want to learn a way to sneak in some exercise while sitting down? Sit down, relax, and take a deep, cleansing breath as we sit through a relaxing chair yoga with Rick Rabelais. Join us on Wednesday, June 2nd, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on Be Green with Amy, live. Namaste.
Okay, well, thanks again, Mark and Wanda. Thank all of you. And now get ready to type in the comments. Here we go. Till I see you again. Remember, be strong, be well, and be green. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, thank you.